Alright guys, welcome back to the show. Today we are going to be doing a detailed video on digging your piers, pouring your piers, marking them, and setting all of your brackets. So before we get started, if you guys want to design your own post frame home or barndominium, reach out to us, design at Mr. Post Frame. We can help you design your barndominium, your shop, your garage, whatever the case is. If you are a self-builder, we have a Patreon group where we talk about different self-building topics every month. We have a live every month. It's a great community of other self-builders that get to share their builds, so check that out. But let's go ahead and jump into the show. So I'm going to line my auger up with this hole, clean it out, pack it, and then I will use our cardboard tube. That is about 14-15 inches. We will collapse it in itself, stick it in there, expand it, screw it together, and then pack rock around it. I'll show you that. But what we do is we either buy sonotubes, or these come from my metal supplier. We cut them in 14 to 15 inch heights. Rip them down the side, then we can collapse them like this so they go inside the hole, and then let them expand and then screw them together, which I'll show you. But let's go ahead and get this drilled. Alright guys, so I centered my auger in that orange circle. I got down to the depth that I wanted to be, and I really don't have to use my tape measure because I shoot for around 50-54 inches. And if I measure from my teeth up to right here, I know that if I'm in between this space right here, I'm going to be exactly where I need to be. So I really never have to use a tape measure. So I got it cleaned out to the depth I want it. And then how we handle all this dirt on the side, if you guys want to do a bunch of extra work, you can shovel it out of there, or you can just push it back in the hole, run the auger in there a couple times, clean it out, and then you don't have to move it manually. We'll literally just take a rake, just the big chunks, clean it out a couple times, and then we'll use all of this to pack in around our form. We got this cleaned out pretty well. There's always going to be a little bit of loose stuff in the bottom, which typically when you put your concrete in there, it's going to compress it. But I always take a tamper and just tamp the bottom of the hole. And then again, the reason I started here is because this was the highest point. So I don't typically need my laser to set this one. I will use it to level it, but I'm gonna set this tube. You can see why we slid it, we folded in itself. Get it pressed down in there. And then I'm gonna take this one all the way down where it's level with the gravel, this gravel out here. So since we're 6 inches above, our string line is 6 inches above down there, I want this as low as I can possibly get it. And then I just use short sheet metal screws to hook this together. Now I'll get my laser to level it. Sixteenth. So we're pretty close. We're within an eighth to a quarter all the way around. That's all you really need to be. And so now that I got there where I want it, I'm going to pack this in around the side, and then that's our form. So it's pretty quick and easy. So just when you're setting these, just try to get them within a quarter all the way around.
Okay.
You know what I mean? They don't have to be absolutely perfect, but the closer we are, the easier it is.
Sure.
And then you can help me. We can drill a couple. Honestly, I can probably drill 3 or 4 once I get ahead of you.
Yeah.
And then we can clean them all out and then move along.
Okay.
Alright, so that's a wrap on getting your piers drilled and your form set. And then one last thing before you actually pour, what we like to do is we'll pull all of our string lines down. That way we don't get them caught up in the concrete, and then we'll put them back up and pull all of our 8-foot on center marks and mark them on the string. But we'll also mark the center of all our brackets. So when we go to set this, all we have to do is line it up with the mark on our string, which makes it a lot simpler. As far as our porch goes, we get 2x4, 24-inch pieces of 2x4 set by each bracket so that we can just slide it in under there for the way we do our porches. And that's it. So now the next step is pouring and setting your brackets, which we'll take you through that as we go. So typically the way I like to do it is any pier that's going to get a dry set bracket, we will pour first, and that buys us extra time. Especially when it's hot, the concrete's going to set up faster, and we try to do all of this in one pour. If you've never done this before, it might be a good idea to break it up into 2 pours. But that's what I like to do. I like to pour those first because that obviously buys us a little bit more time for marking out and getting all our brackets set. So as we set these, I'll kind of show you how we do a corner and then cut the side out. We won't be cutting the side out today, but we'll show you how we measure to get that corner bracket where we need it, and then we'll also show you how we set the regular brackets. Ready?
Yep.
One thing that I like to do if you have time, you don't always have time, is I like to take a 2x4, set it up against the string line, and strike my line, and that's going to be where the edge of my post is. Now, once this dries, I can take these string lines down and I never need them anymore because that mark's going to be in the concrete. Corner post is 4, so that's 6, 7.5 inches. Right there. So because this is a corner bracket, I'm gonna have to cut half of this off. So I wanna set the inside edge of this. This is a 4-ply, so that's 6 inches plus 1.5 inches girth, so that's 7.5 inches over. Seven 3/8. Play the game, Justin. Still too early. 7.5. Good. And then when we're setting the regular inside ones, we have our mark for the center. We have obviously it marked on the concrete and our string line. The thing is with string line, you want to mark this once the string line's up. Don't mark it, take it down and put the string line back up because that mark might not be in the same place because it stretches depending on how tight you have it. So these are our porch brackets. So what we do, these are way overkill for a porch, what's required. However, if you think about your house, the most uplift is going to be underneath your porches. So we use the SPW 66's and we set them up 3.5 inches. So when we pour our porch, the concrete goes in around that rebar, because anytime you have like an outside corner on concrete, you can have cracking. So if I poured a box and set my bracket in there, eventually I would get cracking off those corners. But by setting this up 3.5, 4 inches, the concrete porch goes underneath it, fills it all in, and we don't have any cracking issues. So then once where I get it kind of where I like it, we just take a 2x4, that's 3.5 inches. set it across our form so it can't sink any more than that right there. Alright guys, we have this all poured. There was 40 footings in this house and porch, and it took us about 2 hours and 45 minutes from start to finish. Depending on the weather, if it's warm, 80 plus degrees, windy, dry, it is really going to speed up the process of your concrete curing. So you need to keep that in mind. Make sure you have plenty of people, or a good idea is to pour, like a job like this, maybe do it in 2 pours. Get all your holes ready, pour one day, and then pour the next half the following day. We've done this enough that we can kind of move through it pretty quickly, but there was 2 of us on this. You really probably should have 3 or 4 people if you're going to try to do this all at once, so you can have people putting string lines up after you finish a row and kind of watching the concrete, because when it sets up, it goes fast. So I'll just walk you through the different brackets we have going on here and how we are utilizing them. So we'll just start here. We use a universal bracket. This is the SW60 from Midwest Perma Column. We use them at our garage door opening, so we have 4 of them here. And so you can see we offset this pier. This will be the edge of the column, and it's a 4-ply column, so that's 6 inches, and you can see we still have plenty of room for a bracket and anchor. If we were to center this column right here, let's just find that. We're about 18 3/4, so roughly 9.5. If the column was, let's see, that was the center, we got 1 2 3. The edge of the column would be right there, and then that would be the bracket. Now this would still work, but if this pier was shifted this way a couple inches, it really doesn't give you any room for air. That's why we kind of offset these piers on our garage door openings, so we favor the post to one side, so we make sure we have plenty of coverage on this anchor bolt. This is a 6-inch SDS concrete anchor, so that will go there. Then you can do a few different things here at your corners. You can use 1 universal bracket. You can use 2, so you'd have 1 on this side of the column, 1 on this side of the column. But what we have started doing is just using a full wet set bracket. We have a 6-inch column and then an 1.5 inch girt. So we set the inside edge of this 7.5 inches from there, and then we will just cut this side off. You can either use carriage bolts, or you can just notch your post so your hex head sits flush with this post. This is, in my opinion, the strongest way, but you can see we're exactly 7.5 inches, so that'll give us room for the 6-inch column and our 1.5 inch girt. So we'll just zip this off, throw a little spray paint on there, and this will be good and strong. I like doing that because it's pretty much done. It takes about 20 seconds to zip that off. But that's how we've chosen to start doing all of ours. The other brackets we got are just the normal columns. We'll make our 8-foot on center marks in the concrete, line our bracket center mark up with that, and then we try to be about an inch and 3/4 is perfect, because if you look at this, these brackets are 5 inches. A column is 5.5 inches, so you have a 1/4 inch leeway on both sides. You actually have a 1/2 inch of play with your column. So we shoot for about 1 3/4 from our bracket to our string line. You can see we put a 2x4 up and marked our girt location, and we're off that a little bit. So this one's going to end up being perfect, almost a 1/4 inch of column on each side of this bracket. Another important thing is to make sure these get set plumb this way. This way isn't as important. It's really hard to plumb these this way because if you can see, this angles out, that angles out. So the best way you can do that is set your level across the top and just get it in between the lines. If it's in between the lines, you're gonna be just fine. That column's gonna sit fine down here. But this is the important way. That way your bracket doesn't stick out from the column at all. And even if you screw one up and you have to grind a little off, it's gonna be just fine. And then we'll show you the porch bracket. So this is the way we do our porch brackets. We use solid sawn 6x6s, so either like a 6x6 cedar or a 6x6 green treated post, and then we use the SWP 66 wet set. And right here is going to be our finished height of our concrete porch. So what we do is we take a 2x4, slide it under, and that gives us 3.5 inches. So when we pour the concrete on our porch, it goes under and around these rebars. So by doing it this way and setting this bracket up, we're eliminating any outside corners because the concrete's flowing underneath, filling all this up around the rebar, and then we don't have any problems with cracking. And this is a really quick, easy way to set your porch brackets. I like using a full bracket on my porch posts because if you think about it, your porch is going to get the most uplift from heavy winds. So I choose to use a bigger, beefier bracket for that very purpose. And then we also put a 18-inch pier below the frost line here. We run them anywhere from 48 to 54 inches deep. But that is going to be a wrap on setting the brackets. And the next step we will cover using a rotary laser, hitting all your piers with that, finding the highest one, and then how we deal with our columns so they all match, all the girts are perfectly level. So that will be the next step. All right guys, that's gonna be a wrap on the video. Hopefully it was helpful to somebody that's gonna be doing this soon. As always, we appreciate you watching. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, share us with your friends, and we will catch you on the next video.